This evening, our agenda, I want to give you a little bit of biographical background on myself. Wanted to talk about entrepreneurship in grad school. I don't know, but just for frame of reference, how many people in here have thought about starting a business? One, two, okay. Okay. We'll go through some of the pros and cons. And I'm going to try and make the case to you that if you have thought about starting a business while you're in grad school is the right time to do it. And I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks to get that done, right? And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the startup that I'm currently involved with down at Newlab, which is Motmot, which is just bread and butter, putting what I learned in this program to use, okay? All right, so biographical information. As you can tell, I'm basically Methuselah to the rest of you. I'm technically still enrolled while I'm finishing up C's and my MEng, DEng. I'm actually 41 years old. I'm married. I got 2 kids. I'm originally from rural Iowa, which is like out in the sticks. You can see, so that's me driving the tractor like 10 miles to the nearest town for the 4th of July parade. That's my family farm right there, and then that's me with my horse, right? I also lived in Budapest for 3 years, shortly after like the fall of the wall. And the reason I bring that up is it really part of my hunger for entrepreneurship was really seeing case in point what makes American dynamism special, right? Why is America where all this crazy stuff happens all the time? And seeing the counterpoint to that was interesting, informative for me. And as Kyle brought up, I currently live on my farm in Milford. I grow a lot of fruit. I sell a lot of stuff. Usually in the fall, if you see those big bowls of peaches and apples show up, that's from my farm. I make sure that you guys are well fed with it. All right, so my professional background. I starting in college, like intermittently, I did IT consulting for like 10 years. And then, as soon as Cisco started making their user interfaces way nicer, I was like, well, the writing's on the wall. Mom, Pop's going to eat it, right? So I got out of that and I got into controls. Who's familiar with controls? Okay. Who's familiar with industrial controls? Okay. So this was one of the last projects I was working on before I came back to school. This was checking the internal gear lines or the internal gears that are in the new Ford electric motors, right? This all got deployed out to Manchester, England. And I was actually like finishing this up like my first semester here. After that, I got hooked up with Motmot. So starting in like October of 2024, that's when I like officially like switched out of industrial controls, and now I'm like a chief engineer building like little miniature submarines, right? That's my day job. My night job is I do cybersecurity contracting with the government in different like forms. Usually it's in like an educational framework. This was one of my favorite projects. So this was out at Fort Meade. We were working on how do we break into ADAS systems on vehicles, right? How do you tweak like how they operate for whatever purposes they wanted to work on. This one right here, so just to frame the project, it's we get this thing, they say, hey, we want to be able to get into X, right? So we got to like get the hardware, figure out how we're going to like demonstrate how the exploits work, and then go demonstrate to them. So over the course of this project, this was like a week. We were basically living in like a compound, but this was after we were done. We like tore everything that had a CAN bus interface out of this like car, and then like put it all like pulled all the firmware out of it, did all our stuff, and then like glued it back together, and it like actually ran, which is absolutely bonkers for me. And then so generally that's through the Department of Defense, the MSA, and the AFRL. My educational background, as mentioned before, so I've got a bachelor's in computer science, embedded systems. I also have one in computational math. It's like a little piggyback degree that Dearborn has. It's like number theory and cryptography, that kind of stuff. I came back to do my master's of robotics here. And then I was, go ahead. What? Oh, okay. So, and then the university was very generous. I got some fellowships. So with my extra tuition cash, I linked up with C's. So I'm actually like dual enrolled over in sustainable systems over there. And then, pursuant to my research, so now I'm kind of like on the downswing. How many are PhD students in here? Okay. So there's like 1,000 PhD students running around. I think right now there's 3 DEngs, right? So there's like, it's a doctor of engineering. But I roll up through Mickey Banu's lab doing like industrial robotics and like advanced manufacturing stuff. Um, so why come back, right? What got me out of bed one morning and said, you know what, I'm going back to school. Let's see what's going on. So on one side of it, like COVID absolutely wrecked industrial controls because PLCs, which are the computers that run the assembly lines, right? You just couldn't get them for 2 years. And then after that, there was also this big point in time. So, you're being able to move projects is basically nil. And then compound that with service was basically nil because nobody wanted you in your plant, right? So it's kind of whatever. But I saw the same headwinds like starting to brew in industrial robotics that I saw in IT, which is as soon as FANUC is making their teach pendants insanely easy to use, where like you can just go get somebody and like, okay, this is how it works, right? And then 20 minutes later, they can write a program. It's like the margins on that work are going to be driving down. Couple that with the way that the big integrators are like using labor. It's just like the margins are going to drive pretty quick. So let's talk about the other side of that. I'm the sole heir for several generations, right? That big family farm that you saw, like I'm going to inherit that one day. So, I'm getting older. My family is getting way older, and they're starting to ask me, like, "Hey, what do you want to do with all this property?" And so I sat down and started like crunching the numbers. And one of the things that I saw, and you'll see this if you go look at the USDA numbers, is that farming in the United States is becoming more corporate every day, right? So what's happening is you have these like farms, these family farms, and it used to be like you kind of grow like enough of your own food to feed your family. You sell some stuff to market, right? My great grandfather used to sell eggs to the restaurant in town or whatever it is. And then you'd have some row crops that was kind of like your majority income, right? Okay. So what happens is generally speaking, there's like, there'll be an heir to the family that's kind of like interested in farming, right? But these farms are all the right size where it's like you can't really make a solid living doing it anymore. It's more like it's a passion project, right? So what is happening is if you look at the farms are being consolidated up. So each farm is getting into these situations where it's like, hey, we can't make money doing this anymore. The kids don't want to do it. We're selling out. And this is compounded with like where my family's from in Iowa, they say they rank land according to how much corn it can produce, right? So if you have high corn index land, you're talking $15,000 an acre. Well, I mean, if you're living in a city and you got 1,000 acre farm and your family's like, hey, what do you want to do? You want to come out to the sticks and like farm the corn patch, or do you want a $15 million check? Well, what do you think's going? Everybody's saying whatever, sell it. Okay. Um, the backside of that is, the people who are taking this land over, they're pushing into row crops over and over again. And the way that our subsidies are set up is we overproduce corn sugar, right, and cheap protein, And then we export all this stuff, and then we import, some Chilean beef and whatever else. But really what I see is a missing component in our food supply. We should be the breadbasket of the world. But the only thing that we're lacking right now is labor. So really what came to me is I said, look, I'm seeing the trends in AI, right? I'm seeing the trends in robotics. I'm seeing, like, put the politics aside, the Maha movement is bubbling up, right? People are saying, like, hey, like this stuff isn't good for our kids. This is the time to strike. This is when I want to do agricultural robotics, right? And that literally, I mean, anybody in the department can vouch, like, I'm all ag all day. That's all I want to talk about is fruit and vegetables and all this other stuff. Every piece of documentation they have on me says, like, I want to pick strawberries. It's like, okay. But so that's what I want to do. But what was I missing? Like, what did I not have? Why could I not do that today? Right. So what I was missing was I didn't have capital. So if you want to go do a big project, like my gig was, I wanted to retrofit center pivot irrigation. You know what I'm talking about? When you go down the thing, you see the big sprinkler systems. I want to retrofit those into agricultural robots because I solved two big problems right out of the gates. Number one, localization. Finding out where the robot's at is a lot easier if half of the robot is embedded in concrete, right? And then number two, it's power. Because right now, when you think about your agricultural robots, what do you have? You have your rover designs where the grad students go and like put like a UR on top of a spot or whatever, and it goes out there and picks 5 strawberries over 2 hours, and everybody pats themselves on their back and goes home. Number two is you have drones, which are good for dispensing chemicals, right? Spraying pesticides. And then number three, you have like carbon robotics where they're saying, hey, we're going to develop a new type of implement, which is basically just something else to hang off the backside of the tractor. And the problem with the tractors is like one of the byproducts of the row crop, pressure is it's all about get in, get out, be fast. And to get that speed into and out of the fields, you need the $1 million tractors. Right. So that doesn't really affect the economics. I also, I've been doing industrial robots. So when I come at these problems, I'm just like, okay, well, I got to go find somebody who like sells an arm that can be outside forever. But that doesn't like actually solve the questions I'm looking at. Right. So I just didn't have the expertise. So I said, okay, at this point in time, I was building industrial cells for the department already. My first introduction to this department was building robots that you see up in Kira's lab, right? So it's like, hey, Kira, why don't you sling me a letter of rec? If you're willing to pay me a lot of money, it stands to reason you'd be willing to let me pay you to do the same thing, right? So that's kind of why. But underpinning this from my perspective is, why choose entrepreneurship? Why do you want to do entrepreneurship instead of going and getting a job? Right. So when you were saying like, yeah, I'm thinking about being an entrepreneur, why?
I think for our case, we're thinking of like turning some of our research into like looking into commercialization research.
That is a great answer. Why would you want to do entrepreneurship? Like, if you could just develop your technology and then get picked up by some group, like, would you take a job at Google to go work at Google doing what you're already doing?
It's kind of what like taking a job at Google to like keep working on what we're already doing, or like.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of cool to just start something on your own and like be your own boss.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you some of the pros and cons. So, my wife is like turbo corporate, and she mocks me mercilessly. She says I could never survive in a corporate environment. She watches me. I had a meeting the other day where we were discussing the colors of the folders in a SharePoint, and I was like, I can't. But yeah, you are correct. Like the pros of being able to like set your own schedule is like it's awesome. You know, if you're the head honcho, it's like, yeah, you can roll out of bed one day and be like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm hanging out on the deck today, and call it in, and you know that is an option. The flip side of that is you can never really clock out, which has been like a perpetual like problem from my perspective. Is it's really hard for me to say like this week I'm leaving. I'm turning my phone off. I'm going to Bermuda because if I'm the one, you know, if something happens like catastrophic at one of my customers, like they don't want to hear the junior engineers saying like, I don't know, we gotta wait till Cale gets back. Like, no, they're like, get him on a plane now. Like, you are going. Um, I will say, uh, you know, entrepreneurship, uh, there is a level of risk that's built into it, right? So I think one of the reasons for me that I tend to lend myself towards entrepreneurship is those risks are mitigated in my position, right? Like I said, I'm married, I got kids, so it's like I have to feed these people, right? Uh, you know, legally. But like my wife makes enough so like I wouldn't have to work. Okay. Likewise, I own my house outright. So I, you know, and I live a pretty simple life. So I have nothing to do but swing for the fences. Does that make sense? It's like I don't really have a downside for striking out. Um, I also, like you're saying, I like just being able to do something new. I think there's a lot of I don't know. I think if I was born hundreds of years ago, I'd be the dude on the boat. Like, yeah, let's go. Well, we don't know where we're gonna land, but we'll figure it out. Come on, let's go. Yeah. So there is definitely pros and cons. Um, I would say one of the things that I've learned through my working with Motmot is when originally I just thought it was like, okay, well, option A, you go work at Google, and option B, you are like you're out on your own, you just figure it out, right? But realistically, like there is a wide array of entrepreneurship, and even from academia, right? How many professors here do you know have startups?
It's about like a third of our faculty.
Yeah, exactly. Why do the faculty do it? You guys have any ideas? I think they just want tons of money. That's why, I mean, that's it, right? That's the other great thing is it's like if you do a really good job, like you get a couple like solid deals, you'll make 10, 20, 30x what somebody who is just working a day job will make, right? And if you know, if you're a faculty member, you know, I don't know, selling some technology, it's you still get your Michigan pension, right? But you also get that fat check on the backside. I mean, academia lends itself to play. Um, let's change gears a little bit. Uh, I want to I want to come at you and say, okay, give entrepreneurship a chance, right? Um, if you are under the impression that you don't think you can do it because there's not like whatever mechanisms in place, like as a student, particularly a grad student, I want to change your viewpoint on it, right? I put this one first. So when I was talking about like what am I missing before what am I missing that says, hey, I want to go back to grad school? One of the first things that came to mind is where is the venture capital, right? Because I'm going to need millions and millions and millions of dollars to pull this off. Ann Arbor is the largest agglomeration of venture capital. Between here and Newlab, that's where it all is. Okay. So if you come up with a good idea, like the money is around here, and having that Michigan on you is like a huge push in the right direction. Okay. One thing that in you know, just because of my background, uh, you know, I come at it, it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to interface with these venture capitalists, you know, we have an adversarial relationship. They want to give me the least amount of money for the most amount of equity, right? And I want the flip side. So the best thing to do is to understand how the venture capitalists think. So my answer to how do I learn how these people think is to join one of the venture capital groups, right? So here on campus, we have 7 venture capital groups. I know some of the robotics PhDs are in the venture capital fund because they interviewed Motmot to give us money, right? I joined the Michigan Climate Venture because Michigan Climate Venture is the venture capital group that focuses on food and agriculture. So I serve double duty, right? So I go and I learn not only how the venture capitalists operate, but I also get to do research on the university's dime for supporting my own work postdoc, right? I will say that joining the venture capital group was the single most enlightening thing for me in terms of learning how to raise money, right? Because just through going through the motions of being a venture capital, and you're actually investing cash, like the university has like $18 gazillion, right? So they just shell out some cash to like these student groups to say, hey, go fund, climate change, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, here we go. We got $250,000. Where are we putting it, right? These are like hands down, like they put you head and shoulders above everybody else. Okay. Second off, this one's obvious, right? We have the entrepreneurship centers. There's actually 2 of them. So we have on North Campus CFE, which is more like engineering based, and then down on Central Campus you have ZLI. So ZLI is where the Ross kids hang out. So if you want to get like more into like the finance side of things, that's really the place to go.
Just a quick plug. CLI is going to come in 2 weeks to talk about what they do down there as well. They're going to come here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, I will say also, one of the tricks to doing well in grad school is like capacity management, right? If you want basically free credits, take these classes because you actually learn a lot, but it's like, I'm taking introduction to like embedded systems IoT in CFE right now. And it's like, okay, well, I can complete this class in like 4 hours, but neither here nor there. It's basically a country club membership at this point for me. So next one is test facilities. M-City. Who's been over to M-City? Yeah. It's not only like cars, right? We have all sorts of different startups, and there's just a whole minimum over at M-City. So Jim, the guy who's like kind of in charge of the grounds, the administration of that track, when I was locked into ag, he said, yeah, man, hey, we got plenty of space over here. Come build whatever agricultural stuff you want. Here's a 1/4 acre. This is yours. You can do whatever you want to do. When I got linked up with Motmot on the backside, they said, oh, yeah, you want to like inject robots into our like water mains? Yeah, that fire hydrant's busted. If you replace the fire hydrant, you can do whatever you want. So it's like, use these tools as like a test bed again. And it's like, you get some cachet when it's like, yeah, come on down, we're going to do a demonstration. When they're rolling into like a Michigan facility, it's like, oh, okay, all right. And they also have like tight working relationships with the city of Ann Arbor as well, right? So Ann Arbor, we do a pitch with them like, we're going to be inspecting these water mains or whatever. And they're like, they're fine. Yeah, I mean, they're on board. But when we say, yeah, hey, by the way, we're going to be within striking distance of that Latson Road pipe that busts on repeat, and you guys are like smoking everybody out. They were like, oh yeah, 100%. Like, come on, let's go. This was one of the best things I got to do. So this is the Rice business pitch competition. Just by like a fluke of the rules, I got to compete with Elliot here at this. This is essentially like the Super Bowl of business pitch competitions. So we just like, well, Elliot didn't. I just like rolled up. I was like a walk-on, but we did very well. We got second in the wild card round. This was really good. I got to witness Intero. Who's familiar with Intero Biosystems? So Intero, like last year, they swept. They were the highest performing team at this thing ever. They walked out of there with $1 million. It's absolutely crazy. I will say that the second best thing was being introduced to Anne Perigo. She's an absolute gem. She would be the equivalent of Nick Morales down at ZLI. She's great. Next up, and this is exactly what you guys were talking about. So patent applications. Who in here has filed patent applications? You? That's great. Everybody should be filing patent applications. It doesn't matter what it is. Just, I'll let you in on a secret. For some reason, everybody, including myself, thinks that you need a PI to sign off on your patent applications. You don't. So if you come up with some crazy idea, like, just go sling it. Maybe they'll take it, maybe they don't. But on the off chance that they do take it, you get to see that whole procedure play out. So you go talk to the attorneys, you iron everything out, you get everything dress right dress. I mean, if you're making some knickknack that is publishable, like a physical mechanism, that's probably patentable, right? So I would highly recommend, like, go over. Innovation Partnerships is set up for you to succeed. They want, I mean, they're going to rake you over the coals in terms of like your licensing revenue, but if you're not going to patent it anyway, it's like, let them handle it. You get to see that whole process play out. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna chain these back together. Who's heard of property dispo? Oh yeah. What are you guys usually shopping for?
We get monitors from the
Monitors, what? Chairs, okay. What do you get? Chairs?
I mean, I've never actually purchased anything. I just really like the bays of computers and drive bays and also like random vehicles of all that.
Okay.
inflatable dinosaur costume.
There you go. See, this is the good stuff. I'll let you on a secret about dispo. If you know something's going to dispo, you can go negotiate before it actually hits the floor, and they'll give you like extra sweet deals. So I'll come back to this in a little bit. But if you're looking for like components, I highly recommend like you should frequent property dispo. Next up, key resource, grant writing practice. Who's worked on writing grants? Yeah. PhD students, obviously. I would highly recommend that the master's students work on this as well. And the reason is the crossover between grant writing for like internal use for the university, right? Fellowship application and grant writing once you're already out and starting a business, you're talking 80-90% overhead, right? I always tell people, sometimes they help out with the department and you are giving like advice to the people who are coming in. But one thing I always say is put your name in for everything. It's not your job to determine why you aren't eligible for something. Like just sign up for everything and see what sticks. But if you give like an honest try, you would be completely blown away with how much stuff that you are eligible for. So I say that as somebody, it's like, what I signed up for the Bosch Sustainability Fellowship. And it's like, okay, well, I assume I'm competing against somebody who's out there like, snuggling owls to sleep in the Adirondacks or something. And there's no chance I'm going to get this. I got it, right? Because I'm like, hey, I just want to save like farmland from agri-corps. It's like perfect, 35 grand. Same thing, Dow Sustainability Fellowship, 25 grand. Non-traditional student fellowship. It's like that one I had on lock because I'm super old, but like you get my point. Like you should always be putting your name out there. And this has only been reiterated through my work with Motmot. One thing that you're going to run into is when you start a business, you have to figure out how much cash am I going to take, right? These venture capitals, they want a pound of flesh. But if you go get grants, that's non-dilutive capital. So even in the past like week, we received like, $500,000 in non-dilutive capital just because we sat down. We actually have somebody on staff whose job it is to like write grants, but like we just went through the motions. Try your best, hope for the best, don't count on it, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Okay. this, I might get in trouble for this one. Key resource, employee vetting. You'll see, this is our team, down at Motmot. These are people who are students at U of M or were students at U of M. So one thing that I do is I use my enrollment at the university as a vetting tool for future employees, right? So I take classes with these kids. Okay, this guy's good, this guy's good, this guy's good. Hey, you want to work on this project together? Okay, yeah, no, he pulls his weight, he's got a good attitude, everything else. Hey, why don't you come work for me, right? I don't have any risk on the backside of hiring these folks because I've already worked with them for free for 6 months. So it's the same thing. If I know that they're willing to work for free and put their back into it, I assume that they're gonna be like with it if I'm actually giving them cold hard cash, right? And just by nature of like my personality, I can also see if they're responsive to my leadership or not. Because I tend to like, okay, I'm in charge of the project now. Here's what we're all doing, right? And if they're like, okay, yeah, all right, then it's like, okay, come on, let's go. Next key resource, class flexibility, right? A lot of people, especially the undergrads, they come into these classes and they say, oh, like I got these like tests all over on top of each other, and you know, I don't want to do this final project and all this kind of BS, right? I got two cases. Number one, professor on the left, Dr. Skinner, she's my PI. This was before I was like formally like entwined with her through 590. I went to her and I said, you know, our final project was you had to come up with essentially like an imaginary like submarine, okay, of some form or fashion. It's like, okay. I came to her and I said, hey, Dr. Skinner, I'll tell you what. Would you accept, I got an idea for a new type of tether manager to automatically play out and pull in tether from these submarines. Would you accept me doing this instead? And you know, she's pre-tenure, whatever. Yeah, sure, man. Like, have at it. So it's like, I got to work with a student that I subsequently hired on this project, right? So we put together this tether manager, and it's like, okay, well, this is looking really good, but we need some components. Where do we go? We go to property dispo, right? So at the time, they're knocking down that big, who's been to Dow? You know how Dow just got renovated down in the basement over there? Yeah, so I go over to Dow, talking to Matt, and I'm like, hey man, I know that stuff's junk. I know Kira doesn't want it. How about you help me out? Give me a little inside track over to Dispo, right? So he sends a letter over to Dispo. So those CNC machines that Kira's got up in her lab, there were 4 of them. I bought the other 2 at like $1,000 a piece. So I take these machines, I rip the servos out of them, and I use them to build my prototype, right? And then what I do is I take that working prototype, I take the paper that I just got an A on in marine robotics, and then I go write a grant back to the university and say, I want a research grant for the junk I just bought off of you. Pay me back. So they say, fine, no problem. So they give me $1,400, right? They said, okay, now it's ours though. It's like totally fine. We'll let Damon deal with it down in the grass.
Right, back to Dispo.
Right, back to Dispo. But after we, get this thing, then where does it go? We take that exact knickknack that we just built and we send it over to innovation partnerships, and they say, yeah, we'll patent this, right? So it was like one, not BS, but like an assignment, a final assignment in one class. You go get the junk, you build something different. Skinner's happy because you're showing like an active interest. She gets to put her name on a patent, right? You get a grant you get a publication, you get to go out to Boston, present this thing. And oh, by the way, now we need the same technology at Motmot, right? So I go back over to innovation partnerships and I say, hey, I need to license that technology that I just like patented with you guys. They say, okay, fine, we'll give you like decent deal on it, okay? But what that opens up now is because I'm licensing U of M technology to build this company, now I get investment from the university for my company, right? So now I can get 250 grand from the university to make payroll and do whatever else, okay? So part of the theme here is like, you always need to be thinking about like, what next? What can I do? I've done this. Is there any other like soft spot that I can claw at to get cash, resources, recognition, et cetera, et cetera? Second off, so this is Cameron, same thing, right? Cameron, I don't know who's familiar with him. His specialty is micro robotics. That'll come more into play when we talk about Motmot. What I learned in his class directly parlayed into here's how I build miniature robots, right? But again, for like a final project, I'm taking class with Jack, right? The guy that I was working with through Katie's lab. I already know he's good. It's like, hey, look, I want to build a miniature sensor that goes off of our submarine and can test for lead in service lines, right? No brainer. He's like, yeah, man, that's great. Go for it. Yeah. Same behavior over and over again, right? So networking, this is kind of like, is self-explanatory. I will say that this is probably the most lucrative aspect of the graduate programs up here from my perspective. The whole reason I got entwined with Motmot was the gentleman that Kira had brought in to run her startup, right? For printing these little miniature nano arrays onto curved surfaces. That guy is the guy who recommended me to Motmot, because Motmot's saying like, hey, we need to find like an executor, essentially. He's like, oh, I got the dude. He's up there building submarines in Katie Skinner's lab right now. So, it's ugly to say, but so much of this stuff is like who you know. So take the extra time, go talk to people, build rapport. It'll pay off in the long run. Okay, so here's getting to the meat of the matter. So I joined Motmot at the end of 2024. I joined as major shareholder and chief engineering officer. I'm responsible for managing our work with University of Michigan, right? So we have test track access at M-City. I administer that. I also handle, I wrangle the students. So we hire students. They work essentially part-time during the school year, and then they switch over to full-time during the summer. I make sure that they can actually like get some stuff done during the school year. And then I handle field operations, which, we go out, we got to put these like submarines in, that's my purview. So I make sure like, okay, yeah, it's stuck. Nobody freak out. Like, let's figure out what we're doing. And then I also handle external engineering. So we have to interface with other engineering firms. Even today, this morning, I had to take a meeting with a guy who offers like PCB design support, right? And it's like, okay, sit down. Your pitch is very nice. I don't care about any of that. I need to know, can you put optical transceivers like on these little miniature boards? Awesome. And then I need like high voltage to low voltage step down transformers. Can you do that? That's what I care about. Get us this. And then communicating those expectations back over to the engineering staff and Dr. Coleman, the CTO, saying like, okay, this is the path forward. This is what we're going to do. Okay. Yeah. So I've been dancing around it. So Motmot's job is we design these little miniature submarines that go inside of the water mains, not the sewers, like the actual what you drink out of. That water would go past our submarines, right? We have a whole suite of sensors that we're working on, and currently we're headquartered in Newlab down in Detroit. I'll offer this to everybody here. You have an open invitation. Anybody who's been down there can vouch. Like, I will stop whatever I'm doing and you can come take a tour of this entire facility. if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, like keep your ear to the ground because like I don't know if it's going to pan out, but right now there's this skeleton of Michigan to Newlab, right? So if you go to Newlab, the bottom quarter or a quarter of the bottom floor is all Michigan staff, Michigan brand. Everybody's Michigan. We have the School for Innovation or the Center for Innovation that's coming up here. Like they're getting into Newlab, they're more like it's more conducive for you to get in there. What Newlab gets you is it gets you an actual address, which is huge, right? Newlab is absolutely jam packed with people who can give you grants. MEDC is down there, right? It's also jam packed with venture capitalists. So if you need money, Newlab's the way to go. So if you go look in their front lobby, I mean, it's got some of the neatest stuff that you would ever see. I think our stuff looks awesome, and we have to be in the basement because it's not cool enough for the rest of the stuff. But like, it really is an awesome opportunity. In terms of the extra like amenities that they offer, that's the other end of M-Air. So if you're interested in anything drone related, we have a corridor that goes from M City straight to Newlab. So it's one of the only places where you can take a drone off, shoot it straight to Newlab, and land it on the drone port at Newlab, and the FAA isn't going to kick down your door and drag you off to Guantanamo. So my responsibilities, like I said, field operations. This is me. This is one of our first like. No, that's not me, dear Lord. Yeah, that's Elliot. Oof. So this is in the trenches. Our first iteration, like the robot was actually too big to go inside of a water main, or I'm sorry, it's too big to like get into a water main through like other mechanisms. So we actually had to inspect a pipe that was like not quite in service yet. So they had to dig a giant pit and like put this thing in, right? What I'm working on right now is saying, hey, what if we get these robots small enough that they can actually go through the fire hydrants, right? So if you can go through the fire hydrants, everywhere where there's a fire hydrant, now we can deploy. That changes the game incredibly. Because now instead of being like, okay, well, we got going through like a water tower or something and, you know, trying to manage some ridiculously long tether, statute says that there has to be a fire hydrant every 500 feet, which means at a minimum, if we have a 250-foot tether, we're goal, right? In reality, we have specially designed tethers so we can go thousands of feet, but this is really like our next stepping stone, and this will be what carries us, you know, into like massive valuations. Startup culture. So who here has worked for startups? What would you what are some of the adjectives that come to mind when you think about working at a startup? Good.
Shaky.
Shaky? Don't know if you're making payroll. That's a that's a good one. What do you got?
Pretty like changing all the time. We'd write like operating plan and then a month later. Wow.
Oh, they lasted a month. That's generous. Who else? What do you got?
I know everyone and also the company's mission, which is super nice because I can connect my work to whatever the company is doing, and that adds meaning to whatever. So
Okay.
that's nice.
I will say you get way more ownership inside of a startup, right? What you work on moves the needle every single day. So I mean I'll give you some of my thoughts on it. Startups, they can be all over the map in terms of like their demands. Sometimes they're like, why are you leaving? You've only been here 12 hours today. And then other places are like, oh, you know, come and go. We'll figure it out eventually. I think one thing that I really appreciate in terms of startups is like the do, right? There's not a whole lot of like sitting around and talking about what we're going to do. We just go do it. I think that's a double-edged sword though. I mean, right now I reek of coolant because, you know, we have to use drinking water safe materials to make these robots. So I'm like, you know, I'm in the machine shop machining like stainless steel for days on end. And I'm like, God, So I need to hire somebody else to do this, but it's not, I can't just delegate out because there's nobody else who has that capability, right? I will say the number one aspect that I find in terms of startup culture is the equity is the best part, right? Because you actually own part of what you're doing. It's not like, you know, you can still be a number sort of, but the fact that like there's a psychological aspect to like if I don't give it my all, like I'm only robbing myself as a major shareholder, right? And that also like it bleeds down because now I hold my employees to account. Like, hey, if you're not giving your all, you're also taking my money. So it improves my diligence as a manager, I would say. Um, yeah, just to pitch this. So some of the jobs that we're looking to fill right now, we're looking for a mechanical engineering person, right? Somebody that can start full time. Uh, basically, we're looking for people who are good with the hands on. In terms of Michigan, like you would be at the front of the list if you already had like mill and lathe certifications through the Wilson Center, right? I should have brought that up, the Wilson Center, the training, the ability to walk into a shop. And I'll say this, sidebar on this, like when like even in industrial controls, right? It's the people who did well in industrial environments are the ones who are like, yeah, we need the bracket. Like, just give me the metal. I'll go make it. They go into the tool room and they like whip it up. It may be ugly, or they say, oh, I'll just go print one out. You get some like BS 3D printed bracket. Like, if you're willing to say, like, I can cobble something together to get this line back up and running, like, that person is always getting the job, right? If it's like, okay, the line's down and this something wrong with the panel, what are you gonna do about it? And they're like, well, I'd call maintenance, and then like wait, and it's like, okay, well, you're gonna wait for a job too. um, so yeah, we're looking for a mechanical engineering person full time down at Newlab. We're also looking for a computer scientist, robotics engineer full time. This person would be responsible for basically implementing the interfaces that we generate. So we have our own like piloting suite for the robots that go like inside. And then also, usually every couple of weeks I give like a bolus of like engineering information. Hey, I need these algorithms like implemented and blah, 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 blah. There's also some like AI side of that, but not super heavy. UI integration, networking stack experience and controls are plus. And then lastly, Intermode contacted me. They're another company that's out of Newlab. They asked me if I would reach out to you and see if anybody was interested in being essentially like a robot battery engineer or robot battery engineer. So they build the batteries for Opto. I don't know if you're like familiar with them. They build our batteries. Opto are like these like shipping crates that they dump out of the back of like military convoy planes, and then the crates like blow open, and there's like a little army of like four wheelers autonomous that you can put like machine guns on. That's your cup of tea. But they're looking for help as well. So any of these jobs, if you're interested, feel free to contact me directly. I'll get you to who you need to talk to. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully, questions. Go ahead.
I was gonna Google this after, but I'm not very familiar with what Newlab is. You could
What Newlab is? Okay, so there's a Newlab in Detroit. There's a Newlab in Brooklyn, and I think the Saudis recently got involved. Okay, it's the old book depository. So it's this very nice. It's a It's like an old building that they have gutted and replaced, made it brand new, gorgeous inside, okay? What you can do is you say, hey, I wanna work down here, okay? You apply, and then if they let you in, you get access. They have state-of-the-art machine shops, okay? 3D printers, woodworking, whatever you need, they got it for you. And they give you, the cheapest, you can get like a desk for like $125 a month. But that is your first stepping stone into like, I'm a business and, you should take me seriously and give me cash. When you grow, so like right now, we have like an office that's, half the size of this room. We got it filled with people. When we say, hey, we need more space, you go negotiate with them, and they say, okay, March 1st, like, we'll give you another space that's twice as big. So they grow with you, right? But it's really like, it's a platform for you to like get off the ground in terms of, starting a company. But they really offer like a level of cachet that like lends itself to credibility right out of the gate. Does that make sense? They also have like podcasting studios. So I don't know. We had some people come in and interview me for like a podcast and some other stuff. They did that down there. There's a good coffee shop. But mostly it's the machining aspect of it. So if you, and there's good networking opportunities too. My interns didn't show up today, but like my our first intern, literally, I don't even know how he got in the door, but he just wandered around Newlab asking for jobs, and like Elliot was like, "Ah, all right, yeah, come on, here's your desk," So, it's definitely. I know some of the people from MCB, they come through as well, and they've had luck like finding jobs down there. So, other questions? Go ahead.
So I recall your original goals were to like get into a business because you were going to inherit this property
Yeah.
and you needed to know what to do with it. And it seems like it feels like a small detour. Like, is that still on the horizon or?
Yeah. So part of the reason that I got involved with Mickey Banu's group, and that DEng in particular, is because I'm not quite. So when you took your PhD position, somebody who's your PI?
Bernadette.
Okay, so Booker said, "Hey, I'm going to pay for this guy for 5 years." Right. The problem that we have for me is that in Michigan, MSU is the extension, and Michigan is the premier engineering institution. Right. So if I come up here and say, I wanna be a PhD student. Like, let's just put the quality of life aside for a second. If I say I want to be a PhD student, I gotta find somebody who's gonna say like, yeah, I'll pay for this dude. But the NSF, like, I applied for that graduate student research fellowship or whatever it was. Um, I didn't know this until I had already like filled out my paperwork, but there's like giant disclaimers like, don't do anything food production because that's USDA, and we're not giving you any money for USDA work, right? So that's, I guess, like, my point is like, I'm an undue unknown unknown. So like my opportunities to do like PhD are slim. But with the DEng, your ability to self-fund is a lot better. With that, you also get to do your own research. So now, like this past semester, I just finished up all my coursework. I'll be transitioning into like fulfilling some of those goals that I was working on before. I think, especially now that I've been working more on the sustainability aspect, I think there's room to run with integrating agro robotics with solar. I think, I don't know where this comes from, but there's this weird like the farmers don't trust renewable energy for some reason. When it couldn't be farther from the truth. If you show up to a farmer's place and you say, I'm going to give you 60 grand a year for 100 square feet out in the middle of this field to put a wind turbine, they're like, sign me up. Whatever you want, I'm down for it. But solar, right now, we don't have the technology to integrate solar reliably into food production. So I think that'll probably be where I'm going to head into. But
So eventually your own research into your own stuff or like your own company is the goal then?
Right now I just want to do the research aspect of it. I think I'm 100% like behind Motmot. It's the same impetus. You know, I came into it like it really came after I had kids. Like, what am I feeding my kids? I don't know. You know, is Costco spraying like cyanide on these berries? I got no idea. I have no idea where these things are coming from. And honestly, like drinking water is the same way. It's kind of crazy. I'm sure everybody's seen these like videos of, you know, people turning on their tap and like the brown water coming out. And people are like, ah, I'm supposed to drink this? This is crazy. What is all this? That's just minerals from inside the pipe that got knocked off for one reason or another. It's like that's already in the pipe, but people don't they don't internalize it because they can't see it. So one of the nice things about Mama is you send a camera down there. And it's like, hey, this is what the inside of this pipe looks like. It's a war zone. You need to prioritize replacing these pipes. People drink more than they eat, you know. So I think it'll be better in the long run if we can support like healthier communities. But I in terms of whatever, I think like the agricultural stuff, that's more of an academic exercise for me at this point. But I'm locked into Motmot on the business side for sure. Again, some of that's greed. Motmot's doing really well, making tons of cash. What else? Who's got questions? What? Let me ask you a question. Why would you not want to start a business? This is constantly like this blows my mind because I come in here and I'm like I can't see myself not wanting to run a business. What do you got?
Like, I don't, because I've actually taken a couple entrepreneurship courses. I think the biggest hurdle for starting a business is finding an idea for a business that you feel passionate enough to dedicate this amount of time to.
So okay, I hear that. But if you go work for like Joe Schmo Widget Co., you would be passionate about
No.
widget engineering.
But it's like you asked us, you know, like what we thought of like startups and working for startups, and the word that I always hear, you know, tossed around is intensive.
Oh,
If
okay.
people are working like a traditional 40-hour work week, probably actually isn't the case for a lot of startups, especially within tech.
Yeah.
Like I know burnout is extremely common for people working in startups just because of the amount of work that they're doing. So if it's not something that you're passionate about enough to like put in that constant effort for like creating your own business, to me it's like, you know, work-life balance is incredibly important for people. And so if you're not passionate about what you're working on, so if you don't have an idea that you get behind, it's like, why would you start a business?
Okay. I hear that. Does anybody concur with this? It's work-life balance is what you're worried about? What do you got?
Kind of in a similar vein. It's partially like, oh, do I have an idea? And then also with a like consistent business that's already founded, I'm not getting like stock or anything, but I can get a consistent paycheck and save up money and then like leave in a few years to do something else if I want to do something else instead. Whereas like startups can be more long term of like to see payoff, I might have to be here for like 8 years, 10 years. So like am I passionate enough about this to sit in that one thing for that long?
Yeah, I will point one thing out. One thing that you'll hear tossed around is when you join up with a startup, you have like an equity window, right? Where they say, hey, we're gonna give you X percentage of the company or this many shares or whatever. One way, I'll tell you what, I'll talk about this. Why don't you guys go get some food? That food's getting cold.
Before you do that, one more round of applause. Thank you.
I'm still gonna talk at them while they're eating, so.
You're very entertaining.
So before we clear it off, because we do have a virtual audience, so before we get up to get food, just one last thing. Thank you, Cale. Even though you are here all the time, this is a token of appreciation. So we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
For everyone, this is the first of 6 planned in the series, and so we will have other speakers are coming as James shared. We will have Zell Lori coming next week. So for those who enjoyed the talk around having the entrepreneurship and kind of how that connects to different things, we will also have a continuation of that next week. So they'll be talking specifically about their resources.